See if anybody comes over from the YouTube show. Talking about Jaime Munguia, who's 43-0. Who's he going to fight next? I think he and his team want Canelo. I think most people know that it will not be Canelo next. So I'm trying to get a link up here. So that people can come on. Berlanga most likely, Nightmare. Yeah, you know what? Although Berlanga's got a fight coming up at the end of February, I don't know anything about the guy he's fighting. I know he's unbeaten. The guy that he's getting in the ring with. I wouldn't mind seeing a Munguia Berlanga fight. All right, let me see if I can get this. G Nunez, yes, sir. Yeah, I've had a channel for a while. I used to do more on it, but I haven't lately. So what I'm trying to do, I don't know if this will work. Oh, well, there's a link in there. So if somebody wants to come in and talk about Jaime Munguia, I thought he looked good. I'm like everyone else. I thought that Ryder was going to put up more of a fight, but I mean, it looked like it was going to end early. Although that knockdown in the fourth round was more of Ryder being off balance, but he had a little mini comeback. I thought the two rounds he won were the sixth and the seventh, but I think that was more a case of Munguia just taking some time off. Because in that ninth round, I mean, that right hand he landed was it was lights out, and then the fight was over. So, but I like Jaime Munguia. The thing about Jaime Munguia is that it always seems like he's in a good fight, and that may be a bad thing too, because he does seem very hittable. He's with Freddie Roach now, and you heard Chris Algieri and Tim and Paulie said that they noticed some changes with Freddie. Chris mentioned off air he was moving his head a little more. He's not going to become a defensive master with Freddie Roach, but I think he can improve his offense. And Freddie Roach at the post-fight presser said his best defense is his offense. So we'll see. But he definitely he took Ryder apart. Although I do agree that Canelo gave Ryder a lot of punishment in their fight, and Ryder has lost most of his big fights. But I did not expect. I thought this fight was going to go the distance, and it didn't. All right, so I got a link in there. So if someone wants to jump in, we can talk a little Jaime Munguia. I won't be on here long because I don't do these very often. But as you see in the conversation, once you bring Canelo up, the conversation just really strays in one direction. So unlike everyone else, I'm wondering if Canelo is going to fight Jamal Charlo. Look, Canelo can fight whoever he wants. He can fight whoever he wants. But just remember, he has all the belts at 168, and you are supposed to fight your mandatories. You're supposed to fight the best fighters out there. And David Benavidez has had that number one spot for quite a while, and he still hasn't gotten a shot. And I don't have a problem with Canelo fighting who he wants. Just strip him of his belts, but they won't. The WBC said they would strip him in March if he didn't fight his mandatory. Obviously, he won't fight by March, but if he made a deal to fight Benavidez by May, they wouldn't strip him. What's today? Today's January 29th. One thing I can guarantee is that Mauricio Suleiman will not strip Canelo once March comes and goes and he is not signed to fight David Benavidez. He will not strip him. They will not. They want that Canelo money because they get a percentage All champions, as you know, pay sanctioning fees, so they have to pay for the privilege of defending their belt. So the WBC definitely wants a big paycheck. No one's going to strip him. No one's going to strip him. And I'm sorry. I think if champions don't defend their belts, they should be stripped. Yeah, G Nunez, no one's going to strip Canelo. But be real, be honest. If you don't defend your belts against the worthy contenders, then you should be stripped. It's you should be stripped, because that's the point of being a champion. That's the point of having rankings, because the top ranked fighters are supposed to get title shots. But in boxing, they do it backwards. It's not who deserves it, it's who can make the most money. And it's a shame. That's the business of boxing, and that kills it, but it is what it is. So yeah, Jaime Munguia is 43-0. I watched it Saturday night, and I just watched it again yesterday, and I expected a much tougher fight from Ryder, and I really did think it would go the distance. What can you say? Jaime Munguia did what Canelo couldn't do, and that would be a selling point for the fight. That's what Oscar De La Hoya is saying. He's saying, my guy knocked him out, and Canelo didn't. So, anything to make the fight, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be made. I would like to see Benavidez and Munguia, Berlanga and Billy, Diego Pacheco, because at this point, Jaime Munguia, Oscar even said they want to keep fighting high-profile fighters. John Ryder's not a high-profile fighter, but he just came off a Canelo fight, so it was a testing ground. So he is going to you want to elevate. You want to fight better fighters. So John Ryder was at the bottom of the list. I don't even know if Ryder was ranked in the top 10. He probably was by one of the organizations. But we got G Nunez. Let me see if I can get you in here. Let's see. Add the stage. My man.
George, great
What's
to meet
going
you.
on? Good to meet you, man.
This is awesome. This is awesome. Yeah, I guess to touch on the fight. I mean, did you see any difference in Jaime Munguia truly in the way he fights? I mean, maybe like the champ said on the episode, the intricacies. I could definitely see that. Maybe the couple, I think they talked about certain intricacies that make sense. But other than that, he's the same fighter. He's just gonna
Yeah.
continue being that offensive juggernaut. And everybody wants the Canelo sweepstakes. I understand that, but I don't feel like he deserves a Canelo shot personally.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't. I agree, and I can't break it down like the champs did, but I don't think he was quite as wild as he was in other fights. It's hard to judge on one fight. They noticed some subtleties, that he moved his head a little more. I didn't think he was quite as wild. I think he was more patient, especially like some of those mid rounds that he lost. He was patient. He was actually backing up, which he doesn't usually do. So yeah, I agree with you. Like, it wasn't let's not go crazy. He's not like a completely revamped fighter. And no, he doesn't deserve a shot at Canelo. But if you're going to say Jermall Charlo should, not you, but Jermall Charlo does not deserve the next shot. But boxing. I know boxing. It doesn't matter who deserves it. It's who's going to get it. And I wouldn't be shocked if Munguia did, but everyone knows David Benavidez deserves it.
I was on X and I saw that news about about the rumors about Jermall Charlo, and
Right.
Man, I wanted I almost shed a tear. I was like, "Are you serious? Like how in the world? How in the world? Like it doesn't make any sense to me other than PBC. I guess I don't want to blame this all on Canelo. I just feel like PBC just does what they want to do, and I mean I don't know. I feel like they don't really. I don't want to say they don't care about the fans. That's not true, but I feel like they're gonna do what they want to do, regardless of what the demand is sometimes, or they just want to build up. For me, it looks like they're just trying to cash out their fighters. Like they want to cash out Jamel, They want to cash out Jamal, and
I
then
agree.
Tim said Spence might get the fight. Why? Does
Oh my
Spence deserve it?
God.
No, but
I hope
you
Tim
know,
was just. I hope he was just saying that. You
I
know,
don't.
I hope he was. But I look, Al Heyman. When have you heard a PBC fighter complain about Al Heyman? In fact, after all the fights, the first person they thank, sometimes before God, is Al Heyman. So Al Heyman, to his credit, he gets his fighters paid.
Agreed. Agreed.
He
He
gets
gets
his
his
fighters
fighters.
paid. But yeah, man, look, Canelo can fight who he wants. He can fight who he wants. I'm saying give up the belts. Someone has to strip him if he keeps fighting. Like Jamal Charlo's not ranked. Now you better believe he might have popped in there somewhere in the rankings. Jamal, who's had one fight in like it seems like 10 years. I know I'm exaggerating, um, but it's right now, you know what? Gee, it's rumors. Like we don't know. Canelo might be laughing and maybe they have some other announcement and he'll say, I could see Canelo when they announce his next fight, if it isn't Jamal saying, you guys are idiots. Why are you listening to stuff? If I don't, unless I say it, don't believe it. But boxing, it's all rumors. Half of it is rumors, and Jamal Charlo's name is out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and that's true. Canelo has said that in the past, but like, I was like thinking of the division. I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, Benavidez is definitely the number one contender. And I was thinking people were on Instagram were trying to rank the 168, and out of six fighters, they were thinking Canelo, Benavidez, and Billy Munguia, Caleb Plant, and Morrell. Um, and everyone had Canelo at one, Benavidez two, but three was a flip flop between Caleb Plant and Morrell.
Hmm.
Um, who would you put at three? Would you put Morrell? Or would you put Plant?
That's a. I think Morrell, it's what's he got? 10 fights now, Morrell? I think
Yeah,
he's like 10-0.
around
He
there.
looks so good, but he hasn't fought anyone yet. Caleb Plant has been in there with Canelo and Benavidez. Now he's lost both fights. So that's a tough one. It's a guy who really hasn't done too much, and a guy who, Caleb Plant was a champion, but he did lose his two biggest fights. So that's a tough one. I haven't really thought about a top three, but I'm looking at the rankings now. And like Diego Pacheco, like I love seeing that guy fight. And
Oh
he
yeah.
he he needs some more fights. But you got and Billy, I think and Billy, he like talk about an offensive machine. It looks like he winds up and swings every shot as hard as he can. And against some guys, man, that's the wrong style. But don't forget about Berlanga, because remember, G, when he was coming up and he knocked out, he had like all those first round knockouts, and everyone was hyping him up. And then he started to fight better fighters, and he stopped knocking them out. But he's still young, and he's still out there. There's some good fighters. There's some good fighters in this division, and one guy has all the belts. One one guy.
And Billy versus Munguia, amazing. And Billy versus Berlanga versus Munguia. Those are amazing potential fights. And I think they should fight each other, but everyone wants Canelo
Of
for
course.
obvious reasons. And I feel like some people are just not even worthy of it, and Canelo is just doing whatever he wants to do. And it's just, as a fan, it's just so I understand how he's going to get his fighters paid. Hey, respect to that. If I was an Al Haymon fighter, I want to get paid too. I get it, but from a fan perspective, it's just annoying. Like we're losing time. Canelo's getting older, fighters are getting older, and it's like we want to see the best fight the best, which is why I'm so happy. I know I've heard mixed things on social media, but I'm happy about Saudi Arabia's involvement in boxing. It's like I don't know if we would have been able to see Usyk or Fury if it wasn't
I
for that.
know. I know. And I remember when they first started talking about that fight, Sean Porter, who does some of the pro box shows, he said all along, it's never gonna happen, never gonna happen. What it's less than 3 weeks away, and it seems like it's gonna happen. And Saudi Arabia, I get they have I know there's a lot of political issues over there, but you're talking about boxing fans, like boxing has political issues of its own. It's a dirty sport of its own. So, like when you're a boxing fan, you just want to see the top fights made, and it looks like Beterbiev, who I always say his name wrong. I don't know if it's Beterbiev and Bivol. They're supposed to be fighting probably in June in Saudi Arabia. So they're making the fights, and all fans want are good fights, like every sport. And in boxing, the best don't always fight the best. And it's yeah, like you ever try explaining boxing to your friends who aren't boxing fans, and you sound like an idiot, and they say, "Wait, what do you mean the best don't fight the best? What do you mean? What do you mean it takes years to make a fight?" They don't understand because it's not like that in their sports. And then you sound like an idiot trying to explain, well, no, there's actually 4 champions. There's not one. And it's just, but I'm looking at the rankings too. And as of today, Jamal Charlo, he's not even ranked anywhere. So maybe this is all a rumor. I mean, I was shocked that the Thurman Zoo fight wasn't
Right.
sanctioned, which it shouldn't have been. They didn't sanction it. So I would hope that how do you sanction Jamal Charlo? But it is boxing, so I wouldn't be shocked.
Now I'm really happy about. I think was that the WBA or WBO? I forgot which one it was that didn't sanction it. WBA, right?
I think it was a WBA.
Yeah, because that Tim Zoo. Yeah, I was really happy they didn't sanction that. I was like,
No,
at
it was
least
a BO because Zoo's
BO.
got the BO belt. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so WBO. I was really happy about finally some sort of integrity in in the sport that we love. But I agree with you. I am one of the few people. I grew up with boxing, so I love the sport, my favorite sport in the whole world. And I try to explain it sometimes to my friends who are more, more basketball, more football, whatever. And it's like it's just I have to like draw it out. Like there's these sanctioning bodies and there's these champions that are ranked differently in the business and the promoters. They're like, dude, that's a mess. I'm like,
It
yeah.
really is.
I was like, if I had Jeff Bezos' money, my my business would be fixed boxing if I could, some way, somehow. Can you? I have this random question that you might not know the answer, but can you buy out a sanctioning body? Like, can you buy it, or what is that? Like, is that
Uh,
a company? That's not a company, is it?
it's a they're business organizations. I don't know. I don't think it's like a promotional company where you can buy it. I mean, some say that people have bought them before by giving them payoffs, but I know I know what you're saying. I don't think you can buy it, but they're a business and they have conventions and they're in it to make money. That's why they charge those sanctioning fees. So as a champ, you have to pay money to defend your title. So I don't think you can buy it out. I know people have talked about, and people with money have talked about, we're going to go in and we're going to like basically like buy. I don't know how they would do it, but I've heard people have the plan, like you're saying, buy out all the organizations, buy all the promoters, and have like the NBA, the NFL, like just
Mhm.
a boxing league, and everyone knows that that's what it needs. Like UFC, that's why all those guys fight each other. But
Yeah, that's
it's the wild, wild west. There's too many organizations. There's too many promoters. No one wants to give up their money. So, we're stuck in this same cycle. And then when you complain about it, because I see the comments in the shows and people call you a hater. Like they're like, oh, you guys are Canelo haters. It's funny. People say hate when you have a difference of opinion, everyone calls it hating, but it's really just a difference of opinion. But
agreed.
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, fans are weird. I mean, I'll be honest. I guess specifically talking about boxing fans, like I see some of the commentary. I'm just like, gosh, guys, I'm glad you guys support, but sometimes you guys just don't make logical sense. But I mean, you can't go against somebody. It's like even fighters. Like I recently saw how Shakur Stevenson was unhappy with Richardson Hitchinson said in like an interview, and now they're not friends. I'm like, gosh, man, like. I understand, you don't want, but I don't know if you're too sensitive, or you didn't hear the whole interview, but just you can't say anything. Like people are just overly, you can't go against somebody's perspective. You can't.
Yeah, man. People are like so sensitive. Whatever happened to having debates? Like if you like one fighter, if you and I, when Spence and Crawford were fighting, if I was a big Spence fan, you were a big Crawford fan, it's okay to say, hey man, my guy's going to win because of this. Nowadays, everyone's so sensitive, and you're a hater, and that's like the first word people throw out there. Oh, these guys are haters. No, not if you have a reason. If you say, you know what, Canelo should be stripped because of A, B, and C, you're not a Canelo hater. You're just saying your opinion and why he should. So yeah, people are sensitive, man, especially when it comes to Canelo. I mean, holy, and I like Canelo. I Canelo has been good for boxing, but I'm looking at it now. He's got all the belts. And how long has Benavidez been the number one contender? It's been a while, and he can't get a shot. So, just I don't know. I wish people weren't as sensitive as they are, but that's the world we live in.
I thought at first before this news came out about the rumors about Charlo, I thought Canelo was gonna fight Bud, and then he was gonna fight Benavidez. Like I felt like that made sense money wise, Like I think a Terence Crawford fight would cross over to the mainstream. Crawford is riding a wave right now, so I figured that fight would happen. I mean, even Tim Bradley did an interview. He's saying that he believes Crawford would beat Canelo, which is for Tim to say that. Like that's a good deal. Like that's Tim Bradley saying that. So I don't know. I don't think he was trolling either. He seemed pretty serious. So I thought that was gonna happen next. Like it just made sense. Like fight Bud, make it a big fight, and then give us what we want, and then you leave PBC, then you're a free agent, and then you do what you want again. I think it would keep fans still kind of happy because the Bud fight is kind of like those dream fights. It's kind of like one of those fights that kind of like when Oscar fought Pacquiao, which obviously did not go well, but
right.
You get what I'm saying. And then he gives us the fight we actually want, which is Benavidez, and then we'll get to see because unlike Paulie, I actually think Canelo beats Benavidez personally.
I can see your point, and I think Benavidez would win, but I think Canelo could win that fight. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, Benavidez is going to destroy him. I don't think Canelo's afraid of anyone. He's not afraid of anyone. But you think Benavidez would win? I'm sorry, you said you thought you think Canelo would beat him, right?
Correct.
Canelo would beat, and I could see it. Canelo was not easy, like so. But here's the thing: how about settle all these arguments and sign to fight him? And if Canelo goes out and beats his ass, then we'll say, look, Canelo wasn't washed up. That's Canelo. But we just want to see them fight. But the Crawford fight, it would have a lot of crossover, especially because now it's 6-7 months since the Spence fight, and there's no fights for Crawford out there. But 21 pounds, man, that's a big jump from 147 to 168. It's a big jump, but I see what you're saying. People would be interested. Who's interested? And no offense to Jamal Charlo, but besides the Charlo family and PBC, who's saying, yeah, I can't wait to see Canelo and Jamal Charlo?
Nobody. I think they're gonna try to maybe spin a story like he beat his brother or something like, but it's not gonna be enough.
Well, you know how it is. You're always gonna spin a story but man, I mean, Jamal Charlo. But again, Canelo can let him fight who he wants. I just don't think Suleiman said, I think in November or December, he came out and said that Canelo has until March to make his mandatory, which is Benavidez.
Oh, that's a lot.
Or he would get, of course, or he'll get stripped. Of course, he's not getting stripped.
No way.
But no one oversees it. No one oversees it. So when he doesn't get stripped, Suleiman will say something. He'll have some excuse. But what do you do as a boxing fan? You can't do anything except go on YouTube and complain and voice your opinion.
And here we are. Like, I think Charlo should fight Plant. That's what you should fight.
Fight who?
They have Jamal Charlo should fight Caleb Plant because they have the whole slap situation thing.
That's the fight. Yes, that's the fight I thought they were going to make
That makes
because
sense.
I mean, now you want to talk about build up for a fight. You know, it's all over YouTube. When that happened, it was a slap heard around the world. So that's an easy fight to make, and there's a grudge, but they didn't make it. So
Put it in
I
the undercard of Benavides and Canelo. Oh my gosh! Now that is a pay-per-view. Now that's what I'm talking about right there. That
yeah,
would
but
be.
see, you're making too much sense, and you know they don't want to do that because you know they want to maximize every single fight and have them all on separate cards because you can make more money if you divide them. But yeah, man, I would. And speaking of Caleb Plant, like who's he gonna fight?
I'd
There's
love him to fight Morrell. I think that'd be awesome. But
that'd
that's
be a
probably not happening.
really that no that and that's the bad that's the thing. You know, Caleb Plant hasn't fought since Benavidez, and we thought he was gonna fight Charlo, which makes sense since Charlo's fighting at 168, but Kayla, I don't. I'll be honest. I am not a businessman, but how PBC has all these fighters and doesn't have dates for them, and even the Amazon Prime, which the first one I think it's a terrible pay per view, but they have so many fighters, and now they're all going to be on Amazon Prime. I don't know. I don't think so, and I'm not. It's it's funny. We did a show on ProBox about that first Amazon card, which it's a pay-per-view, which it's not a good pay-per-view, especially coming out of the gate. But I guess I'm surprised and not surprised that it's such a weak start for PBC on Amazon Prime.
I thought they were gonna start with Canelo. I thought that was gonna be like, or maybe not Canelo, but like one of their big tank, one of their big names, and kind of hit the ground running. And they didn't. But I feel like that's a bad sign because I mean, more than likely, this is not going to do well, and Amazon's not going to want to lose
Well, you know
money.
what? I lost my when I was there was a reason why I brought that up. I was like in the middle of saying that and I forgot what my point was. But my point was when I brought up that the Amazon Prime thing, I was in that show, I was looking in the comments and somebody said because we were saying it's a terrible pay-per-view. They're expecting people to pay for that. And someone said made a good point, said it all pay-per-views are free for me anyway. So it's so
Ah,
easy. It's so easy to see. It's so easy to get streams of pay-per-view now. So
wow,
that's what
that's
people are going to do. That I think that's what people will do for that one. I like Tim Zhu. Tim Zhu's like a rising star, and I love Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman is headlining a pay-per-view against a junior middleweight champ. Keith Thurman, who he's fought what once in the past 2 years.
if there's anything about Keith Thurman, is that man could sell a fight, and I think Al Heyman knows that, and he just decided to put out his best marketer on his first fight and just kind of swing. It's like when Mario Barrios versus Keith Thurman was pay per view. I was like, what? Really?
Yeah,
Like, are you serious? And like, so if Mario Barrios versus Keith Thurman was pay per view for Al Heyman's mind, Tim Zoo versus Keith Thurman is definitely pay per view. So it's again, I don't think he'll do well, but if there's anyone that can sell fights, he's just one of the best talkers. He can just ramble and I don't know. I think he'll do something to sell as much as he possibly can. Tim Zoo's gonna just look cool, lay low, and I don't know, trying to
but
knock
it's
him out.
like man, I hear you. He's a great talker. Thurman's a great talker, but how do you sell that fight if you're trying to get me to pay to see that fight? Like, how do you sell it? Keith Thurman, who beat Mario Barrios, and look, he didn't look sensational against Barrios, and then the fight before that, which was like 2 years before, he lost to an ancient Manny Pacquiao. So
Wow.
what do you like? I know, but I know boxing. They'll sell it and they'll talk about he'll say he had injuries and this and that. But Keith Thurman, last I heard of Keith Thurman, he was talking about, or Clarissa Shields was talking about, she wanted to fight him, and they were going to do some charity thing. And now he's fighting Tim Zhu, and I do like Thurman. Like he's gonna go in there and try to win. I don't, and Thurman hasn't looked good in a while. Like it's been quite a while since he's looked really good, but his record is so sporadic now. So he's gonna sell it, but man, I don't know how he's gonna beat Tim Zhu. But it's funny if he did beat Tim Zhu, it still wouldn't be the biggest upset in the sport, but it would be a huge upset in 2024. So they have to fight the fights.
Agreed. I feel like Thurman should have stayed at 147. Like I don't think I've ever seen him fight above 147. This is the first time I've ever seen him move up that I
Yeah,
can remember.
he's had some of those like over the weight fights. So I think he fought as high as like 150 or 151, but he's never really campaigned at 154. And now he's doing it against a guy who has a belt. And I do like Rolly Romero and Isaac Cruz. That's a good fight.
Well, that's another one. Pitbull's moving up a weight class.
Yeah,
I want to see Pitbull fight the best at 135. I want to see
I know.
William Cepeda. I want to see him fight Maxi, man. Maxi deserves a title shot. Like I
Yeah,
don't
he does.
I don't understand it. Like yes, you can move up, and Pitbull Cruz is a small guy. I understand
He is.
he's a beast, but he's a small guy. I don't know what Rolly is not tiny, So I don't know. It will be a fun fight. I'm not saying it won't. It'll be a very fun fight, action packed. That is main event worthy, in my personal opinion. I was surprised they put that in the under. But Pitbull Cruz, man, we could talk about 135 forever. Because 135 is a loaded division, and I'm a Lomachenko, still my guy. He should be undisputed right now, but it was a close fight.
Oh, you thought he beat Devin too, huh?
I scored it. I actually scored it. I got my pen and paper and went round by round, and I had it for 115, 113. So
Wow.
so I'm not saying it was a robbery.
Right.
I don't. That's not true. It was a very close fight, but I saw Lomachenko one by one round. My brother scored in a tie, so we were right there.
Well, I mean, Loma is going to get a belt when he fights Kambosos, because I think Kambosos Kambosos has been irrelevant since he beat Teofimo. He's lost like almost. Well, that's true, because I've got Paulie. They were talking about that today. He I shouldn't say. Let me take that back. He's not irrelevant, but he hasn't looked good since he fought Teofimo Lopez. So, and Lomachenko still has something left. He's not washed up. So I think Loma is going to school Kambosos, and Loma's going to be a champ again when they fight. The fight's in Australia, but Kambosos knows how to lose in Australia. He lost twice to Devin Haney in Australia.
I don't know. Lomachenko will beat Kambosos. I believe that. I hope Paulie's right. Paulie. No, it was Chris. Chris said that he believes. That it was one of the champs said that. Given the history of Teofimo and Kambosos, then Loma might come out aggressive and want to prove a point. I hope that's the case. Like if Lomachenko fights the way he fought against Nagatani or against Comey, if he fights like that, it's gonna look amazing.
Yeah,
and then he'll have a lot of momentum going into any future fight. And I'm surprised the Bob father hasn't made the Shakur Stevenson fight with Lomachenko. I know he turned it down once, but now that Shakur has a belt, it would make sense, because that's the only thing that could make Lomachenko fight at this point is championship belts. And then do it there. I think, to me, Shakur Stevenson and Vasily Lomachenko are two of the best just boxing fundamental that I've ever seen in my life. My personal three are Lomachenko, Stevenson, and Rigondo. I think they're just out of this world when it came to skills. I can watch them train, just admire how they move their feet, how they do everything. So that's a dream match for me, and I'm hoping it happens. And I was like, you guys are both on top rank. Like, why is Shakur out here calling out Navarrete? Like,
well, no, Shakur did call out. He wants to fight Lomachenko. He said he wants to fight Lomachenko. Lomachenko hasn't done any interviews, so I haven't heard him say anything really since the Haney fight. I haven't read who he wants to fight. I just know suddenly this Kambosos fight came up. So, but Shakur has said that he wants to fight Loma, and he wants it to hopefully happen when they both have belts. Maybe Loma, I don't know. Maybe Loma just his big thing was he wanted to be undisputed, and he didn't get it. And at his age now, he would have to get belt by belt to do it. So does he want to do that, or does he want to get a belt and then is he going to retire? I don't know. I just think he's going, unless he steps in that ring and he's suddenly a shell, he's going to beat Kambosos. He's going to beat him, and he's going to have another belt.
As a Lomachenko fan, if he's going to continue fighting at a high level, I'd like him to pursue undisputed, because I believe he can do it. Because I believe he should already be undisputed, but the fact is he's not, and I would like him to pursue it. And if he's thinking retirement, I like him to cash out. Go fight Gervonta Davis and cash out and ride into the sunset. That would be what I hope for.
So he's fighting. It's the IBF, which is crazy. It's an IBF belt because there's 2 belts vacant, WBO and the IBF. And I brought this up the other day. And this is boxing. This is what kills me. The IBF doesn't have a number 1 rated contender. It just says not rated. But number 2 is Kambosos, and number 3 is Lomachenko. Like, how do you rank Kambosos? Oh, and I said this the other day too. Speaking of boxing and how it makes no sense, Keith Thurman is still ranked in the top 10 at 147.
WBC.
I just saw it. He said, "Oh, did they? You know what?
Took him out."
They took him out because last week when they announced this fight, they sure did. They must have updated their rankings because I do not see Keith Thurman. They took him out.
I wonder if they put in Conor Benn now, because Conor Benn, with this his whole fiasco with the drug stuff. I wonder if he's back into the rankings or not, because he's the only guy that I've ever heard call out Boots Ennis. Like I haven't heard anybody call out Boots other than Conor Benn.
Conor Benn is 5th by the WBC, and that's the only one that ranked him. But that's another guy, Boots. Like, that's the bad thing about boxing. Boots Ennis should be a big star, and he should have got a title shot before. He only had 1 fight last year. I haven't heard who he's fighting next.
I selfishly want him to go to Matchroom, because Eddie will sell the heck as much. Eddie will try to sell them as much as he possibly can. Eddie, I think Eddie's such a great promoter. He's my personal favorite currently, and he does so much for his fighters. Like Andy Cruz is getting really, really good fights already.
Yeah,
he's already ranked in sanctioning bodies, and he has like 2 or 3 fights.
Yeah,
and and I think he would pretty much try to everything that PBC did not do to promote Boots. I think Eddie would try to get him to that point, and then eventually kind of just build him to a bigger star. Because Boots is so good. He's one of those really, really good fighters that just doesn't fight enough, just like you said. So
yeah, and welterweight now is, man, the whole landscape is changed now that Spence and Crawford, we assume they're gone. Oh no, I'm lying. Keith Thurman. Okay, I'm sorry. Keith Thurman is ranked 2nd by the WBA at 147. 2nd. He's ranked 2nd. Anyway, Boots, 147. Man, there is not. It is a pretty weak division right now. I mean, you got Keith Thurman still ranked, but there's no headliners at 147 now.
I agree with Bud gone and the big fish going up to 154. So you I think you just got, and Virgil left too, Ortiz left too. So
yep.
Virgil was a big name. So now you just got Boots, you got Stanionis, and you got I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a fan or anything, but he's popular. Conor Benn. I mean, he's a popular guy. I mean, those are the 3 guys I could think of.
Who was the 3rd guy?
Conor Benn. Yeah. He's popular. He's
popular for like all the wrong reasons now. Right. But yeah, he still doesn't have a license in the UK. He's still wow. He doesn't have a license. So, and he fight like next week. This weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah. He's fighting. It makes sense why he's fighting in the US now. Now I get it.
Exactly. But yeah, Boots is another one. I mean, there's just we want to see these guys fight because he looks like he could be a superstar. And remember, like a year ago, when everyone thought him and Ortiz, they were going to be the big rivalry that were going to be like the new Leonard Hearns rivalry at 147. And now Ortiz is gone. And now we just want to, I just want to see Boots fight.
Can you imagine how good that fight would have been? Ortiz versus Boots, like at 147 when they were making. Oh my gosh, what a fight that would have been! Like I actually don't know who would win. Like I don't. Like I actually see that as 50-50. That's like one of those special fights where you actually do. I don't have an edge for either one.
But I don't want Boots to. I mean, he's on what's he? He's young. He's 27, 28, I think 29. But
yeah, he's in his prime.
He's in his prime, and he had one fight last year.
That's PBC for you, though. That's what they do. Like that. This is not. They do this all the time. They've done it for as long as I can remember.
He's 26. Okay. And all right, no, I'm sorry. He had 2 fights last year because I remember the first one. He fought a guy whose first name was Karen.
Oh yeah, it was on
Chudaxian, because he fought a Karen, which is kind of funny. So he fought, and then he fought Via. So he had 2 fights. He only had 1 fight in 2022. And 2 fights in 2021. It would be a shame for him to go like the next 3 years fighting once a year, not big fights, and instead of staying busy. I think it would be great if he defend his belt 2 or 3 times this year, just to keep fighting, just to be out there, because we don't know how good he is because he hasn't been able to fight anyone yet. He looks like he could be a superstar, but there's been other fighters in boxing. They looked the part, but then when they got matched up, they weren't quite that. You never know if your guy's going to be a star until they fight the fights and win. And I think Boots could be a star, but you have to fight to be a star. You got to fight.
Yeah. Good point. And obviously he's not. He's probably not fighting Bud or Spence, so we'll see what happens there. But I wanted to ask for Pro Box, have you guys thought about doing instead of doing dream fights, like Pacquiao versus someone from the 70s, have you thought about doing like current dream fights, like for example, like Sabrina Matias versus Gary Antoine Russell? Like, have you thought about doing those?
We've done, and I think you're talking about like in sparring session. That's where we have the topics, and we've had some. We have had like some, like we had like a month or 2 ago, Arthur and Bivol. Who's going to win that fight? So it's not just like the fantasy fighters. It's definitely guys from today too, because this is 2 months ago when Rolly was calling out Ryan Garcia. That was one of the rounds of the sparring session. Who's going to win that? Who would win that fight if they fought now? Rolly. So yes, we definitely. It's not just, but what's fun? Like it's fun to do the ones from the past and today, because the more casual fans, you got the old school heads that always think the older guy wins, and you got the casual fans, or like today's fans, that think their guy wins, and either side gets mad when their guy doesn't win, but it's all opinion. Like it's like the last one was Sugar Ray Leonard, which like he's on my wall. Sugar Ray Leonard's on my wall. That was my guy. And Bud Crawford is a great fighter. Prime Sugar Ray against Prime Bud. To me, Prime Sugar Ray Leonard is going to win every time. And people, I saw in the comments, people like, "Oh, you guys are hating. You're hate." And someone said, Sugar Ray Leonard got beat by a small, one-dimensional Roberto Duran. And I'm thinking that's the ultimate casual thing to say. Because first of all, there was nothing one-dimensional about Roberto Duran if you really know boxing. But Leonard beat Benitez, he beat Hearns, he beat Duran all at 147. So that says enough for me right there. I saw him fight, and it's not a slight saying that he would beat Bud, but everyone jumps on that. Oh, you're a hater, you're stupid. Well, like, what do you base it on? Like, it's all opinion. So if you have an opinion, you have an opinion. Like, I'm not going to bash someone for their opinion, but when people start saying, oh, you're a hater. But yes, to your point, yeah, we get like fights of today too. And if it's something that they can, that I think they'll argue about, I try to put that in there.
Oh, nice. It's just I feel like uh, I know probably casual fans would like to see more of the typical big names, like Tank versus Haney or Tank versus Shakur. But sometimes I want to see like, I mean, who would win between Gary Anton Russell or Shabril Matias or Richardson Hitchinson and I don't know, another great 140 fighter, which there's so many against Teofimo, right? Like those I would love to hear because the champs are so smart, like the way they break down fights. I'd love to hear what they would say, like, "Oh, we think Hitchison would win," or like that'd be so fun for me. But I understand it's probably wouldn't get as many clicks as
But
Tank.
it's what, it's not even about the clicks. It's like, because I put most of those shows together, and especially with the sparring session, I just want it to be topics, like it's a little lighthearted too. It's not like a serious, like, oh, they're at each other's throats, but I want it to be things that are interesting, like the clicks. And I know ProBox wants people to watch the shows, but really most of the things that we talk about, it's what's going on in the sport. It's what's happening. But in sparring sessions, like we try to keep it fun and interesting, and not just like, we don't want to do every single show like who would win Tyson Fury and Muhammad Ali. Although we did that one, like we don't like Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury, like, because that gets kind of played after a while. But we throw that stuff in there to try and make it fun, because they're good. They know how to, they know when and how to debate with each other too. But some people take it so serious, and like,
I'm telling you, we're emotional. We're all sensitive.
but I mean, and I've seen some of the comments. I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's just like, it's okay to, like, I said, I don't. I think. Oh, it was, we were talking about that Keith Thurman fight with Tim Tszyu, and I said, look, Keith Thurman, when he lost to Manny Pacquiao was 76 years old. I said something like that. Obviously, I'm joking. Someone
Mhm.
put in the comments, Manny Pacquiao was not 76, dummy. And I'm thinking, like, man, do you smile? Do you laugh? Do you ever have fun in your life? I know he wasn't 76 years old. It's just, man, people just, you're supposed to
You,
have some fun.
you got to remember, Pacquiao has fans that are probably more loyal than Canelo fans. So you got to be careful whenever you say anything, even if it's in a joking manner, because Manny is, he's almighty. So I get it. It's like, but if you speak in my household, if you speak bad about Julio Cesar Chavez, you're in trouble. You can't say anything. You cannot say that he lost to Purnell. You can't say it because everyone's gonna get angry.
So Julio Cesar Chavez. Look, I'm a Chavez fan too, but man, Pernell Whitaker got robbed in that draw. Ooh.
I actually saw the fight on YouTube. I went back. It's way before my time. So when I love boxing so much, I just go backwards. Sometimes. And I saw that fight, and I was like, man, just Pernell Whitaker was really good. I knew he was good. I didn't know he was that good because the only fight I had ever seen was when he fought Oscar De La Hoya. Because
That was way at the end.
Yeah, Oscar is like he was my first. He's now it's crazy. Now I'm grown and I feel Oscar's such a weird guy. But as a fighter, he was incredible as a kid. Like as a kid, it was all about him, Fernando Vargas, and Juan Manuel Marquez. Like those were my guys as a kid. So Oscar made me fall in love with sports.
Man, I used to. I've been a producer for a long time, and I worked for HBO for a long time. So I got to spend some time with Vargas. This towards the end of his career. It was the second Mosley fight, but I got to spend time with Pacquiao for a couple of fights, and I went over to the Philippines when he rematched Marco Antonio Barrera. He broke camp. Like we were shooting with HBO. We were in the gym, in Freddie Roach's gym at Wildcard, waiting for him to show up after the presser. He didn't show up. He had some kind of a blowout with his wife, and he ended up going home. And we were doing a show on that fight, so it was either we don't do a show or, HBO had a big budget. So we were on a plane and we went to the Philippines. And I've been to other countries with fighters, and this is before, that fight was before Pacquiao he was a superstar over there, but he wasn't like, he hadn't beaten De La Hoya yet or those guys. everybody in the Philippines knew who Manny Pacquiao was. Like
Wow.
his billboards were up all over. Um, and I've said this story before, but and I wish I took pictures, but I was over there and it was a big deal because HBO had a producer there and a crew. And I was in the gym with him um, the day before we were going to start shooting because I hadn't met him before. So I was there just to watch him train. And his guy came out when he was done training. He said, Manny would like you to go in the back. There's some food back there. He wants to have lunch with you. So I was like, oh, yeah, of course. So I go back there thinking there's going to be like 50 people in the back. And it's literally, there was no one there. There was all this food on his table, all this delicious Filipino food, and nobody was back there. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, I guess his crew's going to come in soon. Manny walks out by himself, and I had lunch. It was just me and Manny and the person that would just keep bringing more food. And it was like 45 minutes, and I was just hanging out with Manny. And it was one of the, and I wish I didn't like to bother people with pictures. I wish I would have taken more pictures back then, but it was pretty cool to have lunch with him, literally just talking. He was telling me, he was explaining what all the foods were, but it was cool, man, to with Vargas too. Like I got to see him. It's funny, you know how his kids are all fighters now. I was in the gym with him before the second Mosley fight. He had his kids in the gym, and all those guys are fighters now. And they were little kids running around the gym. So, like it's been cool to because I've always loved the stories of the fighters and just being around those guys. I mean, I was never like in Chavez's camp or Oscar's camp, but although I did lose money when Oscar fought Manny, I thought Oscar was going to destroy Manny. And man, whew.
Look, I just got to say, dehydration is real, and there's weight classes for a reason.
You know what else is real? The drugs are real, like bad drugs. Not Pete. Oscar was like we heard. I saw they did a 24/7 on that fight, and I didn't work on it, but I would see some of the footage. The way Oscar was acting in camp, and they wouldn't. He was just bizarre, out of his mind. And I know guys that were camera guys, DPs that were in his camp, and they said Oscar was just like he would, like he was just doing things he shouldn't have been doing, and he was way underweight. He was like 145 or something, but
wow,
he was acting out of his mind before that fight. And then you see what happened. He had nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, that fight almost brought me to tears. Seeing your hero get beat like that, but I mean, Oscar. I mean, his craziness has been well documented at this point, and it's sad as a fan. But I mean, it's so many great fighters go through it. Chavez went through his alcoholism as well, and it's a constant thing. Like that's something I wish I could fix. It's like I wish I could be an advisor and just trying to guide people down the right path, but that's not, it's easier said than done. But I have to say, George, 24/7 is one of the greatest boxing related content ever. All Access, with all due respect, is fun, but does not come close.
Well, I think 24/7 was first, but it wasn't. Look, if you saw, did you ever see the doc When We Were Kings on Ali and Foreman?
No, I only saw the 24/7s from the first one.
No. This wasn't a 24/7. This is a documentary. You should watch it. It's called When We Were Kings, and it was they shot footage back when Ali and Foreman fought in 1974, and it was the same concept that was shot decades ago. But 24/7, I got to work on the first few, and I was a production an assistant to the producer. So I got to work on the first two, and the first one was De La Hoya and Mayweather, and the second was Mayweather and Ricky Hatton. And 24/7, yes, man, it was groundbreaking. All Access, it's funny. A lot of the All Access people used to work for 24/7, but it's different now. It's not what it was, but those first few years of 24/7 were phenomenal, and that helped Floyd become a superstar after that Oscar fight. Obviously, he's talented too, but he was just a character, man. In those shows, it was real. With Floyd Mayweather, I wasn't in the camp, but Floyd, if you're familiar, Floyd would train at 2, 3 in the morning. Sometimes the camera crews, because they would have a connect, they would talk to someone. Leonard Ellerby, usually Leonard would say, "All right, you guys come park outside the gym at like 1 in the morning, or come to the house at 1 in the morning. Floyd's going to go for a run at 2." So they'd get there 1, and then 2 o'clock would come sometimes, 3, 3:30, 4, and the crew's waiting 3, 4, 5 hours for Floyd. That's just how Floyd was, because he trained at crazy times. But all that stuff was real, and it was exciting. And I always wish that when I was at HBO, we would pitch doing 24/7s on the lesser known fighters too, but it was such an expensive show to do that they didn't do more. And look, I loved working on the show. And I see Champ Ross says the HBO Oscar doc was interesting. Yeah, because Oscar, almost anything on Oscar is interesting because he's just out there.
I
But
need
yeah,
to see
man,
that. I haven't seen that.
that was, yeah, you should. It's streaming now, but yeah, 24/7 was a fun show to work on, and it was just, look, man, it was well done. It won sports Emmys almost every time it ran. And I'll tell you what, if you want to look up, and I produced this one, but for the second Cotto Margarito fight, we did a 2-part 24/7. And that first episode, and it's out on, it might even be on my page, I think, on my channel. That was the ultimate grudge match, because remember, Margarito, a lot of people think he cheated in that first Cotto fight because he tried to cheat against Mosey, and then Mosey beat his ass after he the whole glove wrap incident happened. And a lot of people think that he tried to cheat against Cotto. So that 24/7, especially the first episode for that second fight, was phenomenal. I mean, it was so good. But anyway, you brought up 24/7. That's why.
Hey, no problem. I've seen all of them ever since the Floyd De La Hoya 24/7. That was I love boxing because I grew up with it with my father, so I always loved the sport. It's just it's like real life warriors, and that's just the type of person I am. I love that. But 24/7 took it to a whole other level. It gave me an insight that I had never. The training, the sacrifice that you don't see. Like you just see the battle, you see the war, but no, I feel like you see the battle, you don't see the war. Like you don't see everything that kind of leads up to it. And when I saw 24/7, that was like seeing the behind the scenes that you never get to see. That was amazing. So I watched every single one every 24/7 that was ever made. I've seen it, and especially the Marquez and De La Hoyas, because those are my personal favorite. But yeah, I saw that Cotto one. I wasn't even. I didn't even like Margarito, but I would still watch it just because I wanted to see the show, because it was just the inside. I don't know if it was on 24/7, but there's this one quote that always really hits my heart, where you're filming Miguel Cotto, and Miguel Cotto, his wife, I think, tells him, like, why do you still do this? Like, why are you still fighting? And Miguel Cotto says, "What else am I going to do?"
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is the realest. That is the realest.
It was real. What was cool on the first, I think it was only for the first 2. The first few were 4 episodes. So for the 4th episode, we shot all the way up until the weigh-in. So that 4th episode would always come out Friday night, and the pay-per-view was on a Saturday. So we would for the last week, because we would always post-produce everything in New York. We would have one crew would be in one camp, another crew in another camp, and every day just sending footage back to New York, and we would put the shows together. We would have one edit room was for De La Hoya, one edit room was for Mayweather. So when it was the week of the fight, we went out there. We would edit on site in these trailers that were outside of the MGM. So we would be editing the week of the fight every single night till 2 a.m. And for those first two, HBO also got us tickets to the fight. So we were able to work on it. And I remember I was at the De La Hoya Mayweather, and I was at Mayweather Hatton. And I remember being at Mayweather Hatton, and I was the guy, like when I got those tickets, I got there when the doors open, when there's like 10 people in there, and then everyone fills in. But I remember when Floyd fought Hatton, and I was a Floyd fan, so I knew what he was going to do to Ricky Hatton. It was like being in England for that fight with the English fans. I was on like the 20th floor of the MGM, and I could hear the drunk Hatton fans in the lobby singing "There's Only One Ricky Hatton." Like you could hear them; they were so loud.
Wow.
But it was cool. Like in HBO, it was a very cool place to work. We got tickets to the fight, so we worked the fight and got tickets to the fight. So yeah, when you bring up 24/7, because I worked on a lot of those, so it's nothing but good memories.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite Floyd Mayweather fights because I personally was not a Floyd fight, but because I told you I was an Oscar fan, so when he beat Oscar, I was not happy. And I was not a fan of his style either. There was a point in time where Floyd was just really like kind of like the way Shakur fought against Edwin De Los Santos. There was a point in time where Floyd only fought like that, and it would drive me nuts. So I was like, but I mean, then again, I remember I grew up with Morales, Barrera, Marquez. Like seeing Floyd would drive me nuts.
That's a whole different style. Those guys to Floyd, yeah,
exactly. So I eventually learned about styles and stuff like that. But I feel like when Floyd got a little bit older, he started being a little bit more entertaining. Like when he fought Maidana, like that, he could have boxed them all night, but he didn't. He decided to, actually get in there. I think when I decided to shut my mouth and give him his respect was when he just demolished Canelo. I was like, oh my goodness, like that was incredible.
I can't pick fights. Like if I could pick fights, I'd be making millions in Vegas if I could pick every single fight. But at that, what Floyd did in that fight with Canelo, that's exactly what I thought he would do.
That was magical.
If you remember, one of those judges scored that fight a draw.
That's insane. I don't remember that, but that's insane. What?
So,
if that doesn't tell you boxing is rigged, I don't know what else. Like, I love the sport so much, but I just really wish we can get our integrity back. And I don't know if it'll ever happen in my lifetime, unless I win the lotto and I just take over. That's probably not happening.
Yeah, but if you won that lotto, man, if you won like 600 million, it might take you every single penny just to get like the WBA. So I don't even know if it would be worth it.
Oh gosh. Well, George, I've been online with you for a long time. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, listen, I'm gonna try to do this more often, like after the shows air at 7:30. So I just like talking boxing. So when I do it, I'll be in the chat and I'll drop a link and man, let's talk boxing some more.
Nothing I love more than talking boxing with somebody that loves talking boxing. So, George, honestly, it was an honor. So, thank you so much for taking the time. You have
all right, brother. Night. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Cheers.
All right, my friend. Yep. Man. All right, it's 9:04. Got 5. See, I see a little thing that says 5 people. And I had the link out. I should have probably sent the link out more, but I'm getting off this because I am married and it is 9:00 and that's enough said. So, Chant Ross said, I forgot about that the whole time. Yeah. Oscar, that's probably as close to real too, as you'll see with Oscar. It was a good dog. I'm not exactly sure why Oscar decided to do it. I know he said he wanted to exercise some demons, but I don't know. He seems like he's got a lot of demons, but it was a well done It was a well done doc. I think it was a 2-parter. It was really good. All right. Well, the 64 minutes. That's about it from me. So I'm gonna try and do these live talks, and I'll drop the link so people can jump in and talk boxing. We were talking about Jaime Munguia, who's 43-0 now. Was he going to get Canelo next? Probably not, but hopefully he gets one of the names, because even if you're not a fan of Jaime Munguia, he is a fun fighter to watch. All right, that's all I got. Pro Box TV After Dark.